Okay. It is now 5:04. We're going to call this April 8th, 2025 meeting of the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee meeting to order.
Don't have to read that
We
anymore.
don't have to read it anymore.
That's good.
Yeah, saves us about a minute.
Yeah,
That's that.
Yeah.
I do.
No, we don't get to. Okay, so oh God, there it is. That's a
Spider?
What's the matter?
There was a spider on me in my car and I thought that was it. It was a staple. I've been freaking out. Last 10 minutes, I keep checking myself. One of those where I looked down, it was there, and I looked back down, and it was gone. And so,
Oh, that's so funny.
Anyway, that was a staple.
Oh,
Welcome
funny.
to my chaos. Okay, so the first order of business is the Parkers River Landing update and request for funding. So we have Kathy Williams joining us. Kathy, you want to just give a little brief overview?
Sure.
We didn't read the packet, and then
Do you want me to?
Yeah, if you can, we have
Yeah.
nice drone footage and we kind of see all the great progress that's been going on.
Those pictures are rather impressive, I have to say.
You need to go to inbox instead of send.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. What would I do?
I feel the same
What would I do
way.
without you?
Right.
And then right here and right here.
Did you get it?
You guys ready?
Yep.
Mhm.
yep.
Does the drone talk to us?
I can narrate.
Magic carpet ride. Hopefully it's gonna work.
Look at that.
Oh, you know what? It's on the H drive and
You can override.
but it's on the H drive.
Yeah, you're not
It's not
connected
letting
to
you
the
get on
network.
the H drive. It's not gonna work. Oh, that was perfect.
Well, you had pictures anyways.
Yeah, I have pictures anyway.
We can see the pictures.
But I think all of you know and probably have driven by and seen that there's a lot of work that's going on.
Yeah.
The phase one work, which is really the bulk of all of the site work, and it includes the boardwalk in the back, the event space, the playground, the kayak launch, and all the entrance and all the parking that's going on there is currently under construction by Robert B. Auer. Basically for about $9.6 million. And you can kind of see all the great, this was actually an older shot too. We've also done through a change order, had Robert B. Auer put in the foundation for the restroom. So we're making some progress with regard to that. But because of the different bidding laws, we bid out the restrooms in a different format and a separate bid. And then when they came back in March, they were about $1.85 million for the restrooms. It's like, they're bathrooms, they're not even heated, whatever. This bidding climate's really, really bad right now and construction costs are really high. So that basically showed us that we were about $575,000 over budget from what we had originally been anticipating. When we started looking at other underruns that we might have for some other line items, we saved about $175,000. It was like in police details, utility connections, testing and materials, and then we also had gone from full-time inspection to part-time inspection now that we're out of the ground and there's less unknowns and less quantities that need to be measured. So that left us with about $400,000 deficit if we wanted to award the base bid plus the two additive alternatives. One of them was for an extra set of staircases coming down from the restrooms into the event space and then also the landscaping there. So we ended up being about $400,000 short. I reached out to some of our other grant partners with the park grant and they indicated that they weren't able to supplement any additional grant funding for us. But the Seaport grant actually said, well, maybe fill out this form and I'll get back to you. So I did complete the form and asked for $400,000. I haven't heard back from them. It was about a week and a half ago. I'm going to touch base with them a little bit later this week and see whether there's any amount of that money that they might be able to add to the project. I'd like to think the project's so far along and it's such a good win and it would be great. It's feather in the cap of the Seaport Economic Council. Hopefully they might be willing to do some of that. We also have been looking at identifying about $200,000 of other potential revenue sources. They're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. So we weren't really hoping not to have to touch those, but that kind of still left us with the $200,000 a deficit that we were kind of coming to you guys who have been so supportive of the project over many, many years to see if you could not supplement it with a $200,000 additional funds specifically for construction. Once we were able to award the contract, Robert B. Auer was the only bidder. So once we were able to award that with them, then we can actually negotiate and do some value engineering and see whether we really need to spend the full 1.85 and maybe we can get a little bit of savings there. But you really can't negotiate until after the award's been made. So that's kind of where we stand now. We're really, really close. And like I say, we have the foundations for the restrooms in, and we're really ready to just move forward. And hopefully then the whole project will kind of be completed at the same time. Things got pushed a little bit. It's looking more like October or November of this year. So I'm open to any questions you might have.
For completion, October, November?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'd be punch listy things, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
always that, but.
Can
Questions?
I chime in?
Right, Joe.
Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Can I chime in? Just in terms of funding, you have, I put up on the screen for you, this is your current budget with all the balances, okay? You have unprogrammed $88,660. You do have this little balance that was left over from the sound study at the drive-in site, that 6887, which we have not yet reprogrammed. So there's 95 unprogrammed. July 1, you're going to come into $135,936. So if you, I think Kathy, you asked for 200 in the memo.
Yeah.
You have the money coming up between the balance and what you come into in July. Now, you're going to need to execute a contract before July, right?
We will, but I think we're not gonna need to spend all of that $200,000 before July. So I
Right.
hope an accounting understands that the money will be available.
So they may understand it's available. If they look to know that it's on hand, you do have several projects that you've budgeted for that really don't necessarily have to start. I had reached out, I'm just gonna go through the list quickly. I had reached out to Jeff, didn't hear back yet. I think he was out of the office. This $20,000 for the beautification team. We've been carrying that forever. And it hasn't, we haven't been able to hire someone to do that for a variety of reasons. That's money that could get reprogrammed. Going down Station Avenue Playground, $50,000. They're not gonna need that before July. Packet Landing, I'm not sure, kind of where we are in terms of spending on that. Some of these others, the senior center, they could hold off. Chasebrook Park, we won't spend it before July. So my point is that there's a lot of these awards that have already been made that can be delayed. So if we need to kind of show some flexibility, Kathy, like saying, you know, because this money's on hand, they can't really appropriate and execute a contract against funds that haven't been appropriated.
Oh, okay.
So we would need to kind of just move things around for the time being with the understanding that we would use the money that sorry, I keep clicking in the wrong spot. The money that we come into in July to cover things that we've already guaranteed.
Has all
Just
those,
a little money management.
Karen, all those funds like the station app, playground and stuff been like officially encumbered like
No.
in this? So right now it's just encumbered on
That's
this.
Astute question, Joe.
So when finance looks at it, finance is gonna show available
But
funds.
they're not gonna see, if I could go to the H drive, I have two versions. I have one that ties exactly to Munis and one that ties exactly to the committee's votes, because Munis and the votes haven't caught up to one another.
Right, so it's not officially gonna
Right.
conflict.
No,
Only,
no,
only in our worksheets will it conflict.
exactly.
Okay,
Karen, the economic development projects unallocated, I see 180, 185,
180,
185
I
rounded,
can't look up there.
184, 737.
Yes,
Okay, that's available.
that's available. right
And,
now.
and there's 40,000, 41,000 roughly in special events that's available.
That is. Yes, that's correct as well.
And 78,000 roughly in administration,
Yep, correct.
and none of that's encumbered. I mean, none of that.
No.
You
You can't-
contract.
No, you can't, the reason I was focusing on the physical improvements is it kind of ties to Kathy's request. The other funds, we can't switch in between
But you can use economic
without going
development.
to town meeting,
You can use
Sure.
economic development. Yes,
if we wanted.
Right.
I think we could. I think
I do
physical
too.
improvements is much more well suited.
well, I
it.
was gonna suggest capital improvements and economic development.
Okay,
If it's,
I think it's fine. I mean, it's not defined anywhere, Steve, what exactly a economic development project is. You know, we haven't done that.
Right.
So,
I-
yes,
How much of
But I
the,
would suggest, this is for open for discussion, I would suggest that the end result of this project is going to be a significant economic development project, put it that. So, okay.
how much of the ED were you thinking of?
Well, I'd like to get to the bottom line of the request. And Kathy's indicated 200,000. Actually, I think in one of your attachments too, it said 209,000 in the contractor. But you just put it down to 200,000. So, but if you want to live with the 200,000, that's fine.
I will take all the money you're willing to.
Well, I think she's got a very strong case if we give her the half of what the amount is going to that Seaport
yep,
grant.
it's a great
Yeah,
update to make.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's a great update.
So you
I'd
can
like to
show.
see how much they're gonna willing to give us for.
Well, you can say, where's the town? Where's the town in
Yeah.
this thing? You can go say, hey, the town's
Yep.
been here. They've been here all along. So,
I think I'd suggest you throw in your up to,
yeah,
in your motion.
okay.
Maybe we could reallocate the 6,887 and then do the 200,000. And then I'll clean that up. Because you had the 600 from the site,
Yeah.
from the, yeah.
I think Steve, if I was guessing where Steve was going, and I'm gonna be so bold as to do so. He was going to suggest
Oh, I see.
perhaps that 95,547.87 be allocated from the public improvement line. That would clear out everything that's currently available,
Mhm.
plus the delta between that number and 200.
Yeah.
Or 200.
Motion.
It's much.
Yeah. That's fine.
Do we need to do the math? I
Just-
don't have it.
I think the question I put out is
Can you do it?
further on in the discussion, if we want to look at branding, what that's going to cost, and that might be more appropriate to come out of that economic development bucket. And I think with where we know we have the funding coming in
Like 104.
into the physical improvements July 1st, and I think just looking at, say, the Station Ave playground and the Packet Landing project, which is probably not gonna, that would cover the
About
delta,
100,000.
just those two projects alone would cover the delta, knowing that those aren't gonna get done until July 1st. That I think that we could just take the funding right out of fiscal improvements and just and it would, on this spreadsheet, it may, the total's not gonna be a negative, but the line item would be a negative until July 1st, where then it's gonna go equal out.
Yes.
So what does that get us? What's the, you coming up?
So if you want to split it,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and you wanted to appropriate 95,547.87 from public improvements, you'd be appropriating $104,452.13 from economic development projects. And that would tally out to 200 even.
Joe was saying.
okay.
Or you can just take it out of public improvements. Because we haven't encumbered everything all the way.
And I think public improvements too is where this is definitely a public improvement, and public improvement is the one solid, we must put in a percentage into that.
Mhm.
You know, I think that
I-
it gives us, we can wiggle everything else other than.
I think
So,
your point is good because I think that the drive-in site could be an economic development project, but could the branding exercise be a public improvement project?
No.
So
No.
if you
Agreed.
want to think about it that way.
But if you just take, how much do we have? You're talking about 184?
184,737 is
Mhm.
currently available in the economic development projects.
Mhm.
and I don't know what the branding thing's gotta cost. I know.
And to,
It's gonna cost a lot.
Yeah, and to be honest-
Leave
Yeah.
untouched. My opinion.
To be honest there, so this gets to Joe's point, so we have $55,000 budgeted.
Mhm.
This is really a budget. You have the 55 there that's been budgeted for wayfinding that we haven't spent,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
take that 55. We're gonna get to 200,000. Let's
Okay.
get to 200,000. Take the 55. I'm trying to go out, I'm trying to get what she needs and get the project done. But at the same time, clearing out some of these accounts that have just been sitting around
Okay,
not doing anything for years. Let's use the dollar. So I suggest 55,000.
Yep.
All right, so
and do you want to take that 95?
take the 95.
Do we want to just go through and just clean up a bunch, make some motions and just clean it up and put it back to the total and then just take from the total at the end?
Whatever. And
You know, clean up the drive-in site
150, so
improvement,
when you get to-
6887, you know, move that back. So what else do we want to move back? That,
See, the problem is I can't access the spreadsheet right now. Because it's on the H drive.
all right, so somebody just,
Vector.
so beautification, so what would
So
we
let's
want to zero out, I guess?
let's start off with the 55, right? We got that?
For the wayfinding.
Yeah, so that's wayfinding. The 95 is, what's the exact amount, Karen?
It's 95,547.87.
Forget the 87.
That's the PI balance.
Okay. So that, and what else we got after that? That's the 150, so we're about 50 shy.
I mean, if you're cleaning up, I mean, things that we don't have plans for, though I think it would be nice, is you have that roadway banners, that's just a balance. The beautification team is a balance, the town, or the beautification team we just haven't touched. Town signage is a balance. And then starting at the Station F playground down, those are the recent public improvement awards you've made. Town signage, I don't remember off the top of my head. Remember. I think that was the chamber sign. That's what I think it was.
So we got 20,000 from,
That town signage line that's on there, that stemmed from the original budgeted amount, that is the chamber recreation department sign at 424. Because I think we bought.
CIB.
right, so we had,
Oh, it's not? Oh, it's a different, oh, it's a wooden one. Oh.
the beautification team, is that what you said? That's
20.
20,000.
That gets us there.
I guess it's 170.
I get to 181,
Mhm.
114.
With
98.
3 numbers. I did
Everything that
not
we
bring a
just talked-
calculator.
You got 55 to 95,
Yep, 5595.
20,000.
This is the picture, right?
And then and then
It's
the
just-
two,
This number,
Yeah,
this number.
yep,
This number.
yep,
This number, this
Yep.
number, this number.
gets us to the 181, 114, 98.
so do you want to take the balance out of economic development projects?
That would, everybody's up for
Okay,
that.
so I'm, not that I don't
It's gonna
trust
be
you guys. but-
18,88502 was
Oh,
balance.
You want to keep it at 181?
We just need another 20
Right.
Right,
out of the stuff that we've already allocated. We never got to the bottom here. Well. We need another 20 out of here.
Yeah, you could do it that way. I just wanted to leave it there.
I would leave it there.
I think it's gonna create
It's 18,880.
a crazy situation for the accountants.
Okay.
So,
They're gonna say, well, let's use the money, you're not spending.
I trust you.
yeah.
We got the same number, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so then
So that
what's the balance needed out of
economic?
Yeah.
It's 18,885 and 2 cents.
85.0?
Cool.
Efficient branding agency.
I mean, we're gonna get all the money.
We're getting 50
July
or
1st.
July 1.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm not worried about any of this.
So I was just like, you know, just keep it simple, just pull it up, you know.
Town should kick in some money too for that
I
branding.
feel like you should make the motion, Steve.
Good luck.
So Steve's motion, I think, was to reallocate the public improvement expense balance, which was 95,547.87. The wayfinding signage at 55,000. The balance on roadway banners. The balance on town signage
Beautification team.
and the beautification team of, whoop, they're 20.
And the drive-in site. Sound study money,
That's in the
I already had that
95.
Covered,
sorry.
plus $18,885.02 from the economic development projects.
Steve didn't-
I was whispering at the camera.
He did say it.
Okay,
We sure, now.
that's a motion. Madam Chair?
Is there, so you're moving that?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay,
So you and that, I'm sorry to be clear,
Yeah.
that motion was up to
Um,
that
Up to.
amount.
I just have one point
Mm.
of discussion.
mm-hmm,
Kathy,
Yeah,
is there gonna be a big, beautiful sign
yep.
that the Community Economic Development Committee could be named on?
There
Well,
is.
We're already part of that because we've given money in the past.
The tourism revenue there's a whole funding acknowledgement sign. It's kind of small now, but there is one and it includes everybody, including tourism revenue preservation funds. What I'd like to do is maybe see if we can't get a bigger one that we can put on the restroom.
Mm.
Same thing, but just a little bit bigger. And then people will see it. But yeah, there's an acknowledgement of everyone who provided funding. CPA in the town
Right.
residents gave a significant amount of money as well.
I've
9.7.
reconnected if you want to show the sign. The H has become available again. Yeah, I don't either.
That would be my only point of.
That's the project sign, but yeah, this is an actual acknowledgement sign. It's only 12 by 18 and it has, the Seaport on, Park Grant, Land Water Conservation, Preservation and Tourism Revenue. Mass DOT gave us a little money.
Alphabet soup.
DRC gave us, lots of people gave us money.
Do you think we can get a tour sometime?
Yeah, I think CPA wanted to get a
CPA
tour
wanted
as
to.
well. It's an active construction site, so
Yeah.
Amanda's been kind of like being the
Yep.
gatekeeper on that, Amanda Lima, the town
We can check
engineer.
into that.
But yeah, we'll see if that's possible. That'd be great.
Can you send out dates? Somebody send out dates?
Yep, well, I'll check with Dawn Marie to see where she's at because she was working on that with the
CPA,
CPC.
CPC, yeah.
And we'll see what dates they got to consider.
Great. Nice work.
All right, thank you so much.
okay, well, we just need to
Having-
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you guys want to see the drone footage now?
Yeah, we can.
How'd you do that?
Do that. Think. I love.
Oh, there we go.
Is there sound, Kathy, or no?
Oh, this is just the woodland trails that go through to the south, to all the marshes, and this is.
That's nice. That's nice.
It's pretty much done.
Just like they showed early on, Kathy.
Yeah, it's amazing how accurate the renderings are to what they constructed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like really, for a long time, we've had the thing. And they've kind of moved it around in order to allow for some planting, so the trees on the rights to kind of shield the people who live on that side. And we kind of have, you can see that the boardwalk's on this side of that little knoll where it has some other vegetation to help block the people across the Parkers River. We have a little bridge there that we had to construct. And then you're coming back through, there's a huge loop. You could go a couple times and get a really good workout. And as you come into the actual, this is the huge.
Oh, I like that triangle.
Yeah, so you can kind of loop or.
That
come-
looks nice.
come back. There's also gonna be a shared use pathway that goes all the way around so kids can learn to ride their
Yep,
bikes and
yep.
that type of thing.
And where are the bathrooms going?
Way in the back,
Oh,
up
way
in the
down
upper
there,
left,
by
yep,
the front.
yep. On the right there, you'll see that's the start of the kayak launch. It's
Okay.
going over there.
Where the boardwalk is?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then this is the park, with that porous pavement. That's why it's darker there. So that you don't have to deal with the drainage. It goes right through. And then there's a playground area. They have the pirate ship up and then the swing. And then they also have the slides going. And that's the foundation right there for the restroom.
That doesn't tell.
Just the entrance coming in. So we've had a little bit of a geese problem. So. Yeah, it's always
Golf
been-
Geese problem.
Bass River is brutal.
Is
And
it?
then, yeah, it is. And then from here, she just goes back out again to over the marsh to see the,
Well. Very nice.
so, yeah. Lots of hard work.
That's a stage right there for the,
There's no, yeah, sorry,
Mhm.
no, unfortunately. It's a floodplain, so trying to construct a permanent stage would be hard, so it
Beautiful.
would be like a temporary stage. But that's the load centers there, those boxes there, that's where the electricity is, so that you can set up
yeah, right, stage right there.
a stage right there and have it sound coming out towards
Right.
Route 28, that's what the sound study.
Right.
So. Yeah,
That's
it's gonna be
nice.
Gorgeous.
It's really nice.
Absolutely gorgeous. It's nice. Now we have a boardwalk on the south side. We have one on the north side.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
Wow.
From town that has two boardwalks. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, Amanda Lima's been doing a great job, you know, all through
Oh, yeah.
construction, which, yeah, she's awesome. So, all
It's been a
right,
great,
it's a great team, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
you.
let's. If you guys don't mind, I want, now that I have my spreadsheet handy, I want to just tally those numbers out this way. So we got this one. 184. 737.
Mhm.
Nope, that's no, no,
Nope.
no, no, that wasn't it.
Isn't it?
Yeah, sorry.
95,
It was
5,
this
4.
one.
Yep.
This one, this one, this one.
Yep.
And the 55.
Mhm.
So those tally 174.
Yeah.
I think we may have to redo the motion. 174, 227.98. Oh, and you needed 200, 123 minus 174, 227.98.
25.
So you need 25,000 from that.
From ED.
Yeah, from the ED.
Okay, do you want to
So
just,
moved.
is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Number crunching. Okay, next is the marketing contract extension for a vote. Let's see, we have materials in here.
I have, and so I had, just so you guys, well, let's go back to that budget. I had spoken to Mary, Vilbon, who's here with Amy, and requested, an extension, proposal for up to $20,000. Mary wanted to talk to her board about it. I don't know if you have any updates on that, Mary? No, we're gonna have a board meeting. Okay, so I'd respectfully request that we can have a vote to set aside $20,000. That would allow $10,000, up to $10,000 per month. We're allowed to extend this contract by 2 months out for July and August. And that's kind of the latest that we could extend to per the procurement. Mary's also going to be looking at their overall budget to see if there's any changes in spending plans, and we'll factor that in as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Is there any questions from any of the committee members?
No, so do you need a motion for that or?
I would need a motion for that, and that will come, just so you know. So because that's July and August, that is coming out of the FY 26 funding.
Mm-hmm.
So you have budgeted, and this is just where you need to start keeping track of all your money that you are planning to spend. So it would come out of that 200, and now you'd be down to 180 going forward for the fiscal year.
For 10 months, but for 10
months.
10 months.
Yeah,
All right, so motion to spend up to $20,000 for July and August of 2025 out of the, is that the FY 26
yes.
Mm-hmm.
funding to continue the current marketing contract.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask what you'll need from us? We need a written proposal.
Yeah,
budget?
Just like I asked,
And
just,
by
I sent you it by email last week, a written proposal describing what you're gonna do for the $20,000. How would you propose to spend up to that much?
By when? That's what I'm asking.
I would say maybe in time for your next meeting.
Yeah, our next meeting is May 13th.
Okay, that's not,
And just marketing services. like
Correct.
That's it.
well, the existing, yeah, we're not doing any events.
I mean, it's not no events, but marketing and visitor service.
Awesome, thank you. Branding marketing contract. So we sent in the materials, we sent several examples. So Orleans just last fall did this process. They put it out to bid. They did select somebody. I don't know where they are at in the process, but they have somebody that they've awarded their contract to. I sent the RFP from South Portland, Maine, that had that really comprehensive response from the Marshall companies. And then I sent to you all via email the city of Amesbury and materials from a recent Mass Municipal webinar on best practices in municipal branding. So I guess where do we start with this, Karen?
Well, I think that a couple things. So when you started talking about this last meeting, you had Lori here, Lori Sullivan and Molly, Mary was here. And started just talking about what is it that you want to buy. We had handed out the proposal, the RFQ from last time, RFP, whatever it was, to give you a feel for what it was we had asked to buy. In hopes of having you all think about what it is you want to buy. The conversation at the last meeting then took a little bit of a turn into discussing the branding conversation and what you wanted to do. So I think that's really kind of where you left it. Courtney sent you some examples from other communities to review and digest. The way I see it, you need to decide what marketing you want to buy going forward, and you want to finalize your decisions about, is it marketing, visitor services and events, marketing and visitor services, or marketing? Do you want to look into branding? And the other reminder I want to give you is historically, you've also had the sand sculpture trail. You've talked about that, and I think you settled, my understanding was that you settled on the fact that that should come from marketing funds. So that all goes back to my comment about the $200,000 budget. Because if you want to do that all in the next coming year, you're going to need to budget accordingly.
The branding exercise would be separate. I mean, essentially, we want to.
Separate
We want a
vendor.
brand and then take the marketing and push it towards the brand.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we need the marketing contract, we need to get off the ground by September 1st, we need to get something in
So that you don't have. a
going
gap in
forward, so there's no
marketing.
gap.
Mhm.
So,
But I think too, so spoke with Mary last week, towards the end of the week. And didn't know, we didn't really get a chance for Mary and Amy to kind of weigh in on the marketing efforts that have been going on. And to kind of talk through some of those, explain what we have been buying, why it makes sense, get your feedback, just to educate you a little bit. So I don't know if you want to kind of turn the floor over.
Yeah,
Courtney,
I'd love
or-
to hear your thoughts and any ideas.
Do you want to sit at the table?
Come on, sit,
Yeah,
Steve.
come on up. We
So
do
we
have
don't
extra
have to-
We
seats.
don't have a black
Steve,
spot, Steve.
Steve's gonna get a kink in his neck.
Yeah, you don't want a kink in his neck.
That'll wreck your golf game.
Yeah, exactly.
Haven't met Amy. This is Amy Maderos.
Amy,
She is the Marketing and Communication and Events Director.
You want to go around the table? So.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
nice. And Amy's been with the chamber now for 7 months.
Awesome.
Went
Yeah.
I know, geez. I still say I'm new. We've decided that
I'll give her
once a
12
year
months.
that I can stop saying that.
Then you're not. Yeah.
My people up here, unmute too.
Oh, good. Great,
Joseph Manning.
Joe. Nice.
Karen Green.
Hi, Karen. Nice to finally meet you in person.
Courtney Butler.
Yeah,
Steve O'Neill.
Joe Gibbs.
great.
And there's two more
Yep.
members, just so you know, and they weren't able to make it tonight. We have Peter Slovak, who maybe you know, he's a local appraiser. And then Danielle Newcomb, I think
You know
maybe you.
Danielle.
Yeah,
You do.
yes, I
Yes.
met Danielle.
She came to the office.
Great.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about branding first, just so I can?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after the last meeting, Amy and I have had some discussion about it, and especially for the members that are newer to the committee, I thought it would be helpful just to review what I've experienced in the last 10 years with the branding with the town of Yarmouth. So The marketing contract clearly states that the marketing is paying to promote Yarmouth as a family-friendly destination. And from the report that Karen sent you guys in your packet that was done in 2004, I believe it was. That is where they came up with the brand of Cape Cod Within Reach. And that brand, that logo is specifically meant targeted for tourism. It is not meant to be used as any, here's a town meeting or here's a, something official from the town, right? That's what the town seal gets used for. But anything out facing promoting tourism, that is the brand
Gotcha.
that is used. What we've been advocating for several years is to redo that brand. It's very dated, it's flat. People have to question, what does it mean? And when you have to explain the brand or the tagline, that's an issue. So it was really great to hear though last week that you guys are forward thinking about the development coming to town. And, we were just going to request that if you're working with a branding company, that, can they refresh the brand you already have for tourism, since that needs to be done? Or is it one brand that you create for tourism as well as development as the town? Or is there two separate? So I think when you think about the branding, I think that would be a really healthy conversation to have with the company that you hire.
Thank
Just
you
so
for
that
that.
there's a clear understanding, because at one time the town had the tourism seal or the tourism logo on town trucks. And that's when we had the whole conversation. No, that's when a town seal
Mhm,
goes on a town vehicle
mhm,
and not the tourism
mhm.
logo.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean,
Yeah,
it's confusing, right? And so you understand what things are meant for.
Yeah.
And when Karen worked with the funding for the Community Information Board, remember we had that discussion, and we put the out-facing tourism brand on that sign, because it was meant not just for locals, but for residents to know about, for tourists to know about events, where to go in town, what was happening. So I think that would be one suggestion when you're doing your branding, to have the conversation with them.
So Madam Chair, what are we going to do? We want to brand
So-
for tourism or?
no, I think it's both. The several examples that we looked at discuss that this branding initiative is critical in shaping the first impression of the town as a strategic component for attracting business, new residents, and visitors. A well-crafted brand will make the town more competitive and attractive, highlighting our community's unique identity, fostering a sense of belonging, and positively impacting both community and economic development. I think if it's done right, it can be used for both. I think it certainly can be, on town things, and then also used to promote as a tourism and business development.
It'd be interesting to see what Orleans is doing, because their brand is truly Orleans, right?
Right now, yeah.
Venice is the heart of Cape Cod, right? So a lot of them have a very branded tourism, distinct logo,
Separate from the town.
separate from the town. So it'd be really interesting
yeah.
what the company suggests. So I just wanted to bring
Yeah.
that point up so people were aware of that.
Yeah,
Just one of the-
You think that would be a question you'd ask the
I think it
branding
would be.
people?
Exactly,
I
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know the stuff, so.
Yeah, just one technical question I have is, if we do a townwide brand, can we use this money that we have before us for that?
I think you
Does
want to
ours just
double,
have to be-
I think you want to, so, I think we'd have to look at the legislation and make sure it fits.
Yeah,
It'd still be
I don't understand
economic
the
development.
distinction, Steve.
Hmm?
What's the distinction that you're trying to make?
well, just going off of what was just said relative to marketing for tourism versus marketing for tourism in overall town. That's a bigger,
Well, you guys can change what the RFP
Yeah,
says,
I
right?
think
The-
that's the thing.
right.
That needs to be assessed.
Right, the RFP, the way it's written right now that you have specifically says marketing Yarmouth as a
For the
tourism.
contract.
Right, and I think that the committee kind of been taking this new
No, right,
kind of reinvigorated look at kind of what are we buying? I think the old, I'm calling that like the old RFP, and then we'll probably have a new. one.
That's what we're suggesting.
Yeah,
So we're just saying that when you talk to the branding company,
Mhm.
I think it would be really helpful to make sure that they're aware of the two.
I think they need to
distinctions.
meld a little bit too, the town seal
Mhm.
and the marketing, forward facing branding for promotional materials, events, banners, all of those things. They should have the same underlying idea. They don't have to look exactly the same.
I mean, I looked back through the stuff from 2004. And if we had executed it, it was actually nice stuff. It really was. It was really nice.
Yeah, there was a lot more to that than I ever,
Then you remember.
ever.
I know. I just took a look at it again today.
Yeah. But I think you need to think
And
about the
it's-
message you want to
Yeah.
send, because I don't know what Cape Cod within reach means, and
yeah.
I have no idea. No one's ever explained it to me, but I still don't know.
I explained it to you.
Well, I feel like it's pushing
Centrally
people away.
located and affordable.
No, and that's the great thing. It's
It-
Yarmouth has location to its benefit in every factor, right? So, I mean, I know what the intent was.
I'm still confused. You made a point about where the money comes from and do we have the ability to do a townwide project? What are you talking about? The enabling legislation, our charter?
I was talking about the enabling legislation, A,
So-
and B, the funding that goes along with that. And if it's a problem, and my only suggestion was gonna be as a follow-up, is if this is gonna be a bigger picture, like the big town and economic development, then the town ought to participate. Where I
We-
learn- where I
We've always
funding my
gotten,
stuff.
we can't play it both ways though, because we've always gotten around that by saying we're community and economic development committee. So why can't we just do whatever we want?
I'm just going, even though it's community and economic development committee, the funding may prohibit us from going the bigger picture. That's, if it does,
tourism-
maybe it doesn't.
The specific Airbnb tax may
Yes,
preclude us the way it's written
it's
legislatively.
not the Airbnb tax,
It's
just to
the
be clear,
tourism
it's the
residence.
hotel motel tax.
so-
And some meals tax.
Okay.
And I think, Steve, you and I think we're on the same page. And you were just asking if
Is
the
it-
mission expands beyond tourism, can we still just use the tourism fund?
Right.
And I said we'd have to look at it. I think you may be able to
Yeah.
stretch it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a question, all
and
right?
maybe not. Yeah.
Before we go all the way down the road, and then find out later on, we can only use this money for this and get a,
Mhm.
I just want to prevent that, that's all.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
Okay,
something from
I'm clear now.
Amesbury. I don't know where
Yeah.
it went.
Man,
What the hell, they fund
I
it?
I feel like there's gonna be a
No.
big fat loophole there, so we'll be fine, but.
I,
Well,
Yeah.
I hope there isn't, because I like to see the town participate financially. But
Make a motion, Steve. Go ahead, do it.
I don't think we're in a motion
Yeah,
yet.
there you go.
Um, where did it go? Anyway, so when Amesbury did this, I don't know where it went. I saw it yesterday, but they did a really good community survey, which I would love to see be a part of this whole process. And the step that the branding marketing company that we work with does. It asks questions like, what's one word to describe Amesbury? What should people think of when they think of Amesbury? Things like that, just to kind of help. One thing I think is important in this is community feedback. I think it's always a good chance to get community feedback, but that's one thing that I'd like to see incorporated into this
Mhm.
when we talk about it, is like working with the public and doing some sessions on it. I don't know how much was done back in 2004, but
a fair amount.
okay.
And if you look at the stuff, it's a lot of pages that I sent you. And, but they did do an extensive survey. I was telling Mary, like, the one thing that stands out from that whole exercise 20 years ago is if Yarmouth were a piece of furniture or something like that,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Yeah,
And
question.
I think that some of those questions are great. I mean, they're, conversation starters for sure. But, and I think the other thing that we spoke about, Mary, on the phone was just, we've done a bunch of, demographics, but we've done some surveying also recently through the visioning, that I think we'd want to look at
Yeah.
that before we start,
Yeah.
what we could add to it.
Yeah, because some of the questions that was asked through the visioning
Right,
It
was very similar to the questions in two
yeah,
thousand.
that's a good point.
And the only thing, when it talks about demographics, if you look at it from 2004 and also the recent visionary questions that they did, the demographic is 60 and older. And I would highly suggest, go to the soccer fields, go talk to the younger families
Mhm.
about what they envision for Yarmouth.
But honestly,
I think
if
it's a
it's
great-
still tourism that you're interested in, then you want to survey tourists. you
But
know?
they're also doing
Um,
more than that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that it's
yeah,
not
you could, and you could do that through the
just
visitor
it's
center.
visitors
Mhm.
too.
Yeah,
That's a good point too.
I got a lot of weird information when I was
Branding the
substituting
town,
in high
not
school.
just for the season, but.
That was where I came up with the idea that Joe and I liked
You're gonna have to go out.
have a VOTEC.
Yeah,
Because they said, we can't get into the vocational, they take 13 kids from Yarmouth for their 172 positions,
Wow.
but they got 7,000 applications because
Yeah.
people applied from all over the state and region. So, yeah, I think you can go and ask these kids, they're actually pretty smart. Thanks.
so,
So
yeah, go ahead.
for branding, so branding's gonna be something newer that we're putting on the table. Do we need to seek approval for the selectmen before we put a package together, or is
Yeah.
it worth putting a package together and going, this is what we recommend?
I think-
Type of thing.
I think some sort of memo package that describes why we see the need for this and what we want to do, and then presenting it at our next check-in with them is how we're gonna get the support from them that we
When's
need.
your next
Good idea.
check-in?
I think it's June something, let me see.
I think it's very important to get
Yeah,
that,
it's a good idea.
make sure that we get their buy-in on this.
Yep, especially if we're gonna have some money.
Yeah, especially since we learned from Lori at the last meeting that like they're looking to rebrand some of the things internally already, like Channel 8. They want to do it as Your Yarmouth and stuff. And so like it's pretty aligned with some other things going on. It's June 24th is what I have. For the next select board meeting. But I think that in terms of my mind, in terms of like next steps, that's kind of what I see is that I think marketing for the next year, that one year contract is kind of not bare bones, but not as comprehensive as it has been. Getting us through this next year. And then we use that in the same time as this market is going on, we're doing this whole branding exercise. Because we don't, like you said, we don't want a gap in the.
Right, and then once we
services.
have this branding exercise done and we determine a direction,
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna, then it's double down on the marketing.
Yes, yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did that include a carve out for events and visitor services as separate
So
this
that's,
year? Or we're gonna wait?
I think events and visitor services would be, I mean, it's up to you guys. We could do one more contract of marketing, visitor services and events for a year and see what we get, or we can break them out. But I think the priority. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but like this next year for the marketing, visitor services and events, that is just kind of like a need to be done. Like we got to get it done. So I'm fine either way. If we do it in 2 or 3 separates or do one combined contract and then focusing it more heavily on the branding stuff while we work through this next year. So I'm amenable to whatever the committee thinks is best for the next year. In covering our bases for marketing services, visitor services and events.
You know how long a branding exercise takes? Is that a 6-month process? Is it
I
more than
think the
that?
conversation last month was 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
I think that's what I
The
remember.
the
hearing.
report from Northprint came in 1 year after the contract was awarded.
Right.
So it's 20.
So, yeah, so it may be more than a year before we're ready to, I'm saying double down, before we really want to implement
Yeah.
that strategy. So, I
27.
don't want to
FY
hamstring
27.
us with just saying by 1 year. So maybe it's.
Right.
But should that activity impact the cleanup that we wanted to do?
I think that we still have some like, for me, I'd still like to put events in the event category and then clean up some of the other stuff. If we're gonna figure out the sand sculptures, how do we incorporate, if we want to call that a signature marketing event or whatever we want to call that, and add it into,
I wish Danielle was here. She had some pretty strong thoughts on this.
or however it is, but I
So
think we
did
do need to clean it up before.
I did ask Danielle, because I knew she wasn't gonna be here, if there's anything she wanted me to convey. She said her biggest things were figuring out what to do with sand sculptures.
Mhm.
And then where we want to go with the branding stuff. But that was kind of all she said. So,
The only thing I would add to this, and I think that's been said by others before, is that the visitor services and event coordination is going to limit our marketing responses.
Mhm.
So by combining the two, we sort of relegate ourselves to the issue that we were talking about, which is a respondent pool
mhm,
that's less than robust.
yes,
I think it's, I mean, I think it's easy to, and that's just again me, but the event part of it, we already have an event system that can move out. I do think that there needs to be some sort of, not so much coordination, but I think part of the marketing contract should be talking with anybody that wants to come to town, hey, we want to do an event, and being kind of that, hey, you need to talk to this person, that person, and kind of be a info resource for that, but just not actually putting on the events. That doesn't mean that a group couldn't put on an event. It would just be funded under our events program
yeah,
opposed to under this. The visitor service part of it, so if we, move that part, the events part of it and just put it into events. The visitor services part of it, I think Mary said there's not a huge amount of that. And it seems like a lot of that visitor service, like doing the banners and some of the,
Yeah.
it's kind of the stuff that the
Nice.
chamber's really been a catch-all for, that's
It's
not
nice,
necessarily
yeah.
their bailiwick, so to speak, but
Right.
stuff that they've just been kind enough to do. And, I don't know if we have a better option to do some of that stuff, but I don't know if it's really the right place for it to be in the first place, I guess.
It is what you call, I'm sorry.
no, go,
You go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you have any thoughts on? No? I know you have thoughts, you just don't wanna share them. Okay,
I think, so I'll just,
The visit-
if I can jump in, I'm sorry. I put up on the screen last year's budget, because it was was it a 12-month budget? All these budgets.
Yes,
That's a 12-month budget.
yes.
So I just put these up here so that you could gauge kind of the amounts. So the first it was marketing, there's online marketing and then traditional marketing. So it was about $60,000 worth of marketing stuff. And then the visitor services, sorry, Steve, you're right. These are kind of the hodgepodge of things, because there's the J1 stuff. I don't think you're doing that anymore. Public enhancements, the garden gateway signs, banners, and, token improvements here. And then the events was $60,000, and then the flat fee.
If I can just
Yeah,
say,
please.
marketing has skyrocketed
Right,
for services, so.
but how do you cover then the visitor services staffing costs?
It's all me
Gee,
and Annie, we don't bill the town for it.
Right.
So you guys have really made that like stick out for us, is that we're doing that for free.
yeah, and
And, it's a lot of staff time. I mean, just the banners.
I was just gonna say, no one in the town, you know this better than anybody. No one in the town wanted anything to do with the banners.
Oh, no, banners are a
The
pain in the
chamber
ass.
took it on. The chamber
Right,
took
which
it
was
on,
great.
right, because it would have never got done. So-
What I was gonna.
We gotta
cumbersome.
remember that as a group. If we,
Mhm.
if the chamber doesn't
I'm
do
not
these.
suggesting cut.
No, I know,
I'm
I'm
just-
just saying,
yeah.
saying something for other groups' edification. If the chamber doesn't do 29 through 34 up there, somebody has to do that, if we want.
Yeah.
Maybe nobody does, maybe you don't want the banners.
Right.
Maybe you don't want the garden signs.
No, but
Everything else.
I think the only point I was trying to make is that the chamber, and it's a chamber activity. You're working to support your businesses. So visitor services are traditionally covered by chambers of commerce, right?
I don't know it.
Well, then some costs are being covered, but then other places aren't covering $60,000 worth of
I think
marketing,
Karen,
No,
right?
but that's totally different than hanging banners in town.
yeah, I guess
And
Agreed.
hanging holiday
Agreed.
decorations.
Agreed.
this is a good discussion.
Mhm.
Well, the chamber that I remember from Worcester was what you just said. Helping the businesses in the community to thrive, to grow, to expand, to stay, not leave. And I think that's being done here by this chamber, but some of these other things are being done by this chamber because no one else either there's no one else in the community to do it, or no one else in the community who wants to do it. So all I'm saying is, keep that in mind as we go forward.
Yeah.
Because, we may not want to do any of these things, but does that leave us at a deficit of how we market, what our community is and how we market our community? I guess we gotta have
And
that
if-
discussion.
if I can say, I see those items as community development. When we planted the
I
2,000 daffodils.
don't disagree.
That does, like, the comments now is, wow, look at how beautiful Strawberry Lane is, and look, those are beautification.
Yep.
Type projects.
Yep.
Right, and so maybe, maybe those type of things is back to that beautification team, and granted, we don't have people.
And we just
Maybe
spent
they
that
don't
money.
belong in the marketing contract, and that money should be more towards marketing. That's where it's going. And I want to see nothing but two thumbs up for, we had a problem and the chamber stepped up and provided a solution for it. I'm just saying that I think that there's a lot bigger fish to fry, being the marketing stuff
Yeah.
opposed to some of this stuff. And I'd like to see that maybe go back towards, I say the beautification team, but to somebody else. I just don't see the marketing part of it as, those really aren't items for the marketing part of it. It's, as Mary said, it's more community development. And I'm all for funding them, and I'm not quite sure how to keep doing them, but just prioritizing, and it's like those things are just,
Not a
you know,
priority.
that-
A lower
that's all.
priority. It's a lower priority to market. I get what you're saying.
Which,
The visitor services, how much is all?
14. That's a
14,
14.
15,000.
That's not
It was
even,
less
so,
this year. It
that's
was even
not-
less this
yeah,
year.
it's because we don't do the J1 anymore. We
Right,
don't do
you're
any.
not doing it. This year's, this is 10 months.
To your point, Joe, I'm guessing that we could probably find a way to fund that.
Like,
Outside of the
$1,000.
marketing.
Right, I'm looking like visitor center improvements. I mean, that would be part of our capital, our infrastructure, if they needed $5,000 to do something, I'd have no problem going, hey, it's a town building, it's right in a prime location.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have no, outside, again, like, I think that this,
DPW.
I think we've kind of gotten by
Expand.
necessity, we've kind of expanded, and I think that it really, let's get this right back to the root of what we're doing is, we want to market the town. What's the best way to do that? And as marketing goes, and you folks probably know better than I do, stuff changes. I mean, like, the median, it used to be print newspapers, now is it radio ads, now is it TikTok, what demographic you going for? That could change tomorrow. There could be a new fad next week that, we also need to be,
Nimble.
I don't want to hamstring anybody with this contract too, is I want to make it so that there's enough leeway that if something changes and all of a sudden hey, this is great, that the folks that we empower with the marketing contract have room to jump on stuff too. So,
Yep.
But again, we've kind of gotten away with some of that other stuff. And I'd like to see some of that, maybe we can fund that elsewhere or do some of that elsewhere and get back, marketing contract back to the core of it, especially if things are getting more expensive, then we need to enhance those.
I think it's good motivation because I don't know how any of you feel, but I think what we talk about when we get together is the fact that our community isn't sustainable as just a tourism economy. We have to find ways, not to expand the shoulder season, but to change some of the dynamics so that it becomes more of a year-round community. Right? And that's why we're talking about investing marketing money to help the diff and to help 28 and to help that reinvestment, because that isn't necessarily going to be hospitality 100%. It's going to be a mix of a lot of different things that I think lead us towards a community that's much more sustainable 12 months of the year as opposed to, Memorial Day to Labor Day. So I think that's kind of what we're talking about is the marketing contract, the branding work, all of that needs to be more dynamic if we're going to do what we're all talking about, which is to become more sustainable.
What you've been saying for 10 years, you said? Yeah, sorry.
So as far as,
Yes.
let's break it up into, I guess, this next year. What are we thinking for covering this next year for marketing visitors and events? Sounds like visitor services is kind of out.
I think it should be.
I think just looking at that, and I'm not out of the marketing contract, not necessarily out of us supporting
Right,
stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah,
I'm saying maybe even call it something different. Community services,
right. You know, I think
Community
that this,
development.
you know, it go,
Community development.
you know,
fund it some other way.
right, when you look at, you know, the $15,000, I mean, this could be several of the buckets that we have
Right.
could fund things individually. So I don't, and none of them are big ticket items. So I think we should get back to that. What's the root? The marketing. You know, events, we'll put into events, but we already have that set up. And it's well funded. And again, if we need to add to it, you know, we can go through, we can add to it, or, you know, if we have to go to town meeting and reallocate it next year, we can put a little more in one bucket or a little less in another bucket, As-
Create a new bucket,
or create a new bucket. Good point.
community development bucket.
But I think
So we
that if we
said
get this down to the mark and then the visitor services, we'll say taking it out of this proposal, but not abandoning it.
Mhm.
But let's go after, you know, the marketing, you know, and that. So what exactly we want to put in that box specifically? I don't know. I mean, the RFP is kind of, when you go back to the original RFP, it seemed to be pretty broad as to, this is what we're looking for, and we're looking for the proposal, and it's,
Yeah.
the company's gonna come and say, hey, right now, for 2025, this is what we're suggesting to go forward. So, you know, we don't necessarily, I think we just need to put in the, you know, we need to draw the lines on the side of the road, but there's plenty of room to
And
get,
we also
you know,
need-
it's a 3-lane highway. They can get in whatever lane they want, that group thinks best to do
We
it.
should also include the caveat that we are pursuing a branding project. Right, so that respondents to the RFP. Mary obviously is gonna know about it, but it would be helpful, I think, if you're responding to an RFP, to know that at the same time, we're gonna be doing a branding project, and that,
Mhm.
you know, at some point, that marketing agency is gonna be involved, tasked, whatever you wanna call it,
Participating.
right?
Right, and that may just even put that out now, that may pique interest for people down the road to go, hey, I'm gonna follow this branding exercise because I want to see where it leads and whether they, you know, we get other, you know, more folks to apply, I guess.
Can I ask you both, what do you think we need to be doing for marketing? Like, absolutely need to be doing, what would cover some bases? What do you think is important for the next year?
I mean, I would just say, as far as improvements go, you have to remember, if you separate events from marketing, I feel like the communication needs to be a little stronger as far as between the communications director at the town, understanding the contract and the events that are being paid for by the town, so that she can properly, or he, whoever, can properly promote them. And also, in the special events contract that we have now, all promo for town events, like Seaside Festival and the parades, Thatcher Hall, things, are supposed to be shared with the contract owner, which they weren't this year. So I'm just saying that that's stuff that needs to be firmed up a little bit, the communication. And if you do separate the events from marketing, that's gonna become even more of importance. Because then the marketing person is not going to be planning the events, and they're not gonna be aware of all the details, so there'll need to be more communication. I think that's just one of the issues that stood out to me, is mostly just communication.
So that could be something we add to the events, that whoever wins the marketing contract, part of getting event money from us is gonna be to
It's
sit
in,
down with,
it's in the contract.
right.
It's in the contract.
Well,
And
they don't-
So we just need to make sure that that's
they don't-
done.
No one does it.
No one,
Might
that's
be a
a
little
huge
extra
issue.
work, extra meetings.
No one
so
being
that
the
you
people
understand.
running the events?
right.
For years, Karen and I have tried. And it has never happened.
Well, it's
That's-
you guys making a condition on the grant that you're gonna do the event and you're gonna have the event organizer, say the Seaside Festival or
It-
anybody else, that they're gonna do the marketing dictated by the,
That's part of the contract, and if they don't get paid.
So it's
That's-
beneficial to the
Yeah.
town, but whoever you're hiring for a marketing firm, right? I don't want to single out an event. Let's just say an event organizer is 2 weeks out from the event and your marketing firm doesn't have a poster, doesn't have anything digital, doesn't have an event description, has nothing, and they're being paid to market your town, right? That's not helpful to you. They should be in direct communication at all. As soon as they're funded, that communication should start.
Yeah, so it sounds like as soon as we award our things as part of the thing, if you get an award within a month, we're gonna have a meeting and they all come together with whoever wins the marketing thing.
Yeah.
That each group must send a part of the award must send a representative. So everybody's gonna come and sit down in the room and
Well,
at least all be on the same page to start with.
yeah, I mean, to be fair to our events that we've funded, you
Right.
have had active participation in knowing who's been awarded a contract. So I guess I'm just a little taken aback as to like where the onus is being put on the people running events when our marketing contract is. So that's just new information, I guess, that I guess better
At
communication.
times they don't have the proper marketing pieces, and if I'm not aware of it, it's more just like even being aware of each other's events or interactions. And that's more so because I'm new, so I'm not
Yeah.
aware. I don't know who does what in town, so I was learning, but I didn't know that it was in their contract to share those things with me.
That's really good feedback. That's
Yeah.
definitely something we'll look at in the next round of this. Did you have did you have something? No?
I just think it's going to put onus on community development director to be really dug in monitoring these contracts going forward. It's gonna put a lot of work and emphasis on that person to monitor and make sure that the people, if it's not the chamber now, it's somebody else, that like Joe said, they're understanding that they gotta market not only the product that they're putting out, but how it relates to the rest of the town.
Right, but if, we're funding them.
Yeah, we can put
You know,
caveats
We,
on.
we want,
Yeah.
we want, as well as I think that too, is if we get everybody at the table, maybe at one point is you can get the scale of economy, whether it's different advertising. you get
Well, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is that like, that has been something that we've been discussing for
Right.
at least my time here, and I guess.
Right, it hasn't
Yeah.
happened, I guess, and how do we make it, how do we get,
You tell us.
we just need to make sure that we're enforcing it. that
Yeah.
It's part,
Yep.
it sounds like it's part of it, it's just slipped through the cracks, so.
Yeah, it's just building that bridge.
Oh, we should have all the
Um,
collective.
And then if I
Just
can,
processes like social tagging and things, they tend to peter off. So it's just about keeping consistent communication.
Can I ask a question? So I'm interested in, so on the spreadsheet, on the budget, on the narrative that gets submitted, as part of the packet last time. So these are the kinds of buys. This is what's tallying. I mean, I appreciate the need for better communication and the need to,
But a buy
have
would be like
stricter
marketing or
things,
events.
but this is how the money's being spent. So, this is a 10-month. Is this the 10-month?
it says on top of 12, it says on top,
Sorry.
July to June.
it says a 12-month on top.
That's the 12-month, but this is the one, this is the one we just revised. So yeah, maybe this is a 12-month
It is.
contract. And these were the figures that were revised. But I guess, the merits and the need for these ads and which types of ads are the best performing, what can we say is, definitely impacting visitors and definitely impacting revenues.
Mhm.
Can we make those ties to these things? And which ones would you guys prioritize? And it might be, a complicated question.
No, I mean, I think this is where it becomes very complicated for us, because even some of your committee members have told us that if we make a recommendation for the future contract, it's a conflict of interest for us, because if we apply, we're telling you what to put in the contract.
We're asking
You're
you
not
as
gonna-
your expert
Okay.
opinion.
However, if you look at her
Excuse me?
quarterly reports and her monthly reports, I know, it's an interesting position for us to be in.
I mean, no, I think.
You're raising a
the
good point, though.
question is You're just providing feedback. You're not.
But it's
getting
in
a
there-
leg Up on the
But
RFP.
but even your own committee members have told us up.
I have not said that. I'm not sure
I
who
didn't-
has, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
sure.
a little misinformed. We're asking, as the only person who's had this contract for the last several years, what you find useful and valuable, because if we're gonna be putting this forward for the next year, I want to know, do we need to do social media mirror ads, gateway packages, geofencing and weather trigger ads, or can we get away with social mirror ads?
I mean, we do the quarterly reports, we do the monthly reports.
Somebody's phone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's an alarm.
That's very
That's
soothing,
cute.
Amy.
Okay, then I guess we'll just have to,
No, we're not trying to be difficult. I mean, I'm just like, that's what we've been told, that it would be a conflict of interest.
and I'm telling you now, I don't think it is. We're asking for your
Okay, don't,
opinion just because we're trying to have this discussion, but
okay, then go ahead and answer her. I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
I just want to know what you think is the,
Yeah, I don't
like,
think
for the
it's a
next year,
conflict,
if it's beneficial for us to do like all of those, or will we, like, cause I'm just trying to, I don't do the ads. We get the reports, yes, but like, I know that like in other communities, they're only doing certain types. So are we really seeing?
So some of it is
Online?
hard for me to answer because I walked into this budget the
Yeah,
way it was. So these
With
weren't
all the
my
buys already
decisions.
made.
Yeah, they weren't
Right.
necessarily my decisions and I might not have done things exactly the same way.
Mhm.
That being said, like, there's nothing on here that I think is a terrible buy or anything like that. I would just say that a lot of it depends on the content that is being shared.
Okay.
Right now, I'm working with Tom Chartron on the video with money from this budget. We definitely need that, an updated Town of Yarmouth video. The one
Mhm.
that we have is pretty old at this
Yeah.
point, at least 3 or 4 years
Like,
old.
how often should that kind of thing get updated?
I mean.
I mean, as I guess
Honestly,
the answer is probably as frequently as possible.
Yeah, I mean, maybe every 2 years at the least.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
But I would say that that was my initial concern about just jumping into this and sharing the same old video. Like, I'd rather just do a static image that's updated than have an old outdated
Mhm.
one. So I would say that, you know, we have a benefit at the chamber is that we have Placer AI, which is an AI system now that gives us like the visitor center zip codes and their favorite places. Other people probably won't have that, but I've used on this last geofencing and weather trigger ad, like the specific locations that are most popular on Cape Cod. So I think with that information, it's definitely going to be really productive. Can you go down just a little bit so I
The
can?
traditional, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I would say that we could do even more with print materials. I was going over a little bit. The ads are great, but even like the things that visitors can grab, I think that our demographic is still a little bit liking the old school. And we have people ask us to mail them packets and things from the visitor center. So I still think that print is valid.
promotional materials.
And promotional materials.
Like we ran out for this summer and it's the first thing people grab.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good to know.
I think that
How many radio ads like do we do?
we only do them around events.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and they are very successful. I think I've heard lots of them like around Christmas stroll and people
Yeah,
mention
yep.
them and they are successful.
Okay.
But we haven't done any with the jingle, which is something that you guys will have to
Yeah.
think through if you want to go forward with that. But I would also keep that in mind when you do the branding, if you're gonna keep that jingle, because
Yeah.
that supposedly is your brand, your messaging.
Yeah.
But you have the licenses in place for use of the jingle. So
Yeah, I
that's
think it
it's
was,
really not up to us. It's,
yeah.
if you want to
so
use it in your marketing, I mean, you can use it in the marketing.
Yeah, it
Thing going
was too
forward.
late.
Yeah, she's
It
saying
was-
once the contract is over, we
Yeah.
probably won't have the
Yeah, I
ability to
had
use
it
it.
in the holiday one, but it wasn't approved yet, so I had to take it out, so I just didn't have money left after that.
Mm.
So
Um, I would say that photo and video and even more snippets of video are really important
Mhm.
right now.
That's for a photographer, right? Is that what that's for?
Photographer
Okay.
at the events, yeah.
Okay,
But also, I mean, it could be for just around town taking
Yeah.
photos.
So,
Because I've seen nice ones kind of recently on like the beaches.
But not
Mine.
And they're really nice. Amy.
Thank
I-
but not
they're-
even that,
they
just
catch my
the
eye.
businesses.
Yeah.
To promote the places that we have to visit, you know? The
Yeah.
historical sites,
I think that what I kept asking Mary, why is it based on tourism and, you know, family-friendly destination? Like, to me, I live in Yarmouth. That's not what it is to me. To me, it's the best of both worlds. It's like the historic side where you can relax and have a romantic getaway, and the other side is the fun-loving, you know, kids, family, and I think that in my mind, I keep going there.
yeah,
I know that there's two sides, but they meld together. And I think in my head, it's like the best of both worlds kind of thing. We have everything.
yeah.
So I would say that the little snippets of Instagram reels and things like that, I would definitely create a lot more. And in the past, there's nothing in here for, social ads. That's really important to me. And I think
Okay.
that's missing, you're missing out, you know.
So what the subtotal for marketing was what, 60 something? Is that what it
Yeah.
was?
If you
So-
tally up the two,
Okay.
70.
70, so what if we, like for this next year, what if we bump that to include some social stuff? I don't know.
When we did the contract, we didn't put specific numbers for each item, right?
No, but I'm trying to think of a number that we would do for this.
That was part of the proposal that's gonna come back to us, right? So
Yeah, I don't,
so the proposal that comes back to us would be, all right, if social ads
Yeah,
is gonna be
Right.
20%,
yeah,
because that's.
we have a number that we're
I
gonna
think,
not be
I
willing to
think
go
that
over,
I'd
right?
imagine that as part of your RFP, you'd say, you know, we have an approximate budget of X. And we're looking for a marketing plan,
Mhm.
and
let them
you
decide.
tell us
Yeah,
Let them
what
decide.
it's
Yeah.
going to include.
yes.
I have, everyone's done, I have one big thing that's really bugging me. Maybe you guys can straighten it out. Who is going to, is it this group or is it some other group in the town, or is it a combination of groups in the town? That's going to start marketing for new businesses coming in vis-a-vis the water treatment project that's underway? Is it just as part of this contract, or are we not gonna do anything?
I think I think if we issue this next marketing contract for the next year and we say it's not focused just on tourism, then that could be included in that. Whoever gets it will have to do that, but it's gonna be in partnership with the town of,
No, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. Okay, so it's gonna be, so it has to be written in the contract that
yeah, it
this
was,
new firm, this new entity is going to do marketing of new business coming into the town, working.
are you talking about the branding contract or the
No,
marketing?
I'm not talking about branding. I'm talking about
Okay, so-
actual businesses coming into the
No, I know
new
that.
businesses.
Okay, so,
New
so
business.
then the current marketing contract RFP that's been issued for however many years, that gets to the point that Mary's talking about where it says tourism, family friendly. We don't want it to say that. We want it to say to market the town's businesses, to attract and retain, to
Okay,
hit on
so that-
tourism and all those. I think it would be included like that.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Are you, I want to be clear, so
saying we're out.
are we including, is this contract that we're looking to bid?
We need to decide,
You,
right?
you need to decide.
Is
if
it gonna
it's
be a marketing-
One or both.
No, yes, but I'm saying to his point, we can still, I don't want to issue the same marketing RFP that says tourism. That's what I'm saying is that like, it can say market for businesses, visitors and residents, like it can do all of that. I think that's what Mary's sticking point is that like this current RFP has been very specific to tourism,
Okay.
family friendly. And so for the next year, we can just, if we want to talk about that, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to decide what this next year is going to be. Do we just reissue the same RFP or do we update it to say we want it to be focused on X, Y, and Z, not just,
I think it's up to you guys. I
Yeah.
mean, Steve, to be honest, so there hasn't been a conversation that I've participated in that, you know, says, what are we gonna do lately? We do have, and this
Yeah.
is kind of getting ahead. You know, we are actively working on, few things, the local comprehensive plan, a mixed use analysis, and then we will have, marketing, more of a market analysis. So all of that will feed, I think, the next part about how are we gonna market to kind of investment.
The market analysis is going to be that thing that was going to be done on 28.
mhm.
Here are the sites. This is what could be used for the sites.
It hasn't been fully scoped. We have, Bill Scott's made a number of starts at it. And it's, coming time to kind of, we'll pull it together and issue the RFP. We have, so we have Bill working on stuff. We have Kathy working on the LCP. We have the mixed use analysis, which was under me. And we have hired a provisional employee to help as needed with that economic development vacancy. We have
Yes.
some fluidity, which we're
I
gonna
guess,
get to at the end of this.
so let me ask this question. You think it's to the group, do you think it's premature to put in as part of the RFP marketing for new businesses?
Yeah.
New businesses?
I think at this point it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see what's gonna get us through this next year. If
Yeah.
it's,
Can I make a
Yeah.
suggestion? So at our last meeting, we talked about the hardship that the businesses with the wastewater project are being hit on. Maybe somehow in the contract, it can just say marketing of our local businesses.
okay, I'm gonna make
And
that.
then I think they would know enough to target the businesses
Yeah.
within the wastewater construction site.
Great suggestion.
And that's what
I've
I'm
got it.
doing with the video, is that
Thank you.
even though we're not gonna state the businesses, I'd like to be in the businesses.
Yeah.
Videoing, that's.
Because that's what we don't have and that Yarmouth needs to show is the businesses.
Business retention.
Yeah, and even,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, well,
And that'll have some of the net effect too, because if businesses see that we're behind our businesses, they'll want
Right.
to be one of our businesses.
Right.
Mhm.
But we need to hang out the open while remodeling sign.
Yeah,
Right?
Ignore this road closed sign.
just go around until they tell you you can't anymore.
that's what happens.
You'll end up somewhere.
But I think that would be
The
helpful.
water. The water.
Yeah, thank you. for
You'll hit
that.
the water
That's a good
somewhere.
statement
The
to
water's
include.
never
Be
fun.
prepared to walk a lot.
Yeah, and I think I'd spread out, I mean, it's their choice, whoever does the RFP, but, you know, we do a huge chunk with Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is fine, but I would spread out for what your need is and your demographic.
Like how?
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if you can say, but like how far off Cape are we marketing to?
Well, the zip codes were all in Massachusetts that we are doing the, where they get an ad.
Okay,
But they were like Boston and maybe a little further out, but
okay.
in the state.
You're
Okay.
saying through Cape Cod Broadcasting.
Yeah, CCB
Yeah.
Media,
Mhm.
yeah. But it was interesting. I don't know if any of you went to the tourism forum that the Cape Cod Chamber had a couple of
I
weeks
could
ago.
not go,
Um,
but I saw.
Their
that.
data was really interesting because where she targets in Massachusetts is right where the Cape Cod Chamber targets. So it, like, we're doing that a good job because we're
In
right
sync.
in sync with
You
them.
need your ads to go right below theirs. So they'll do Cape Cod and then you go Yarmouth,
Yeah, exactly.
have them placed together.
Help, sure.
I think that report from 2004 said New York was the biggest marketing. zone.
It's-
Well,
Was it?
Then it was
way back
Boston was
then?
second,
Well,
People are-
Boston
but
is,
that was 2004. That was,
it's not very far off.
Yeah.
So it's Boston, number one, New York was third,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Rhode
That
Island.
was in the raw data.
Yeah. We have the report if you guys would like to see it.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
We can send the,
Thank you, yeah,
information
if
to
you
you.
could, that'd be great.
okay.
Yeah, I was sorry to miss that. It seemed like a good day.
The governor's conference had some good data we can share with you too, if you.
no, that would be awesome.
So it sounds like. Well, I don't know what it sounds like, but it sounds like for, at least for the next year, we want to focus solely on the marketing. Any special events would go under special events. Would be applied for through that process.
Right, I mean, I think we'd keep the little asterisk about the coordinating with the event.
Yep.
You know, for.
With whoever.
Group, for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
That, if we can do a big, an ad that has all the different things on it and everybody can get together. I think that should be part of it. So I think back to that coordination, just
Yep.
not putting on the events, that funding would come from just from the other bucket of money.
Yep.
So we can boost that up. So there'd still be some, I guess, minor coordination, but
And would the event still be family friendly or not? Like,
Well, so-
broad?
So our special event fund is not specific to family friendly. It's just to increase the visitation or get people coming in. So, yeah. Thoughts? Any other thoughts from anybody?
No.
I think just clean up, keep going with the tourism as the
Yeah,
primary thing right now.
yeah.
Knowing that down the road, once the
Yeah,
branding
yeah,
is
that's
done,
branding and
we'll
these other.
probably
Yeah.
see a shift.
I mean, so if we're like, I'm thinking time wise on the branding, so if we go to the select board at the end of June, their support and stuff, we probably won't get an RFP issued until the fall. So looking at that timeline,
Are you thinking a 1-year RFP, 1-year contract from the RFP?
for the branding,
No.
for the marketing.
For the market.
So for this marketing contract, I think if we tighten this up and we can get it voted on for the May, it'll be issued before the summer for the 1-year marketing contract.
1 year.
And then the branding contract, I don't think we'll get anything issued RFP wise till the fall.
Will the branding contract be done? Do we want to limit the marketing contract to 1 year? If the branding contract takes 18 months.
I think if,
So I don't want to have to
Look at that
rebid it.
branding contract.
I think it's gonna take a little more than
We need to make sure that we get something back in a timely fashion on that branding. work.
yeah,
so I think
Can't
that
Give them 18 months.
we need to give them more than a year, like more than a year.
Respondents will be weighted accordingly. Like if you respond, you're gonna get us back the results in 8 months. That's gonna get you more.
All right, I was
But
just.
are you
points or
saying
whatever.
18 months because you're giving time to scope it, get it out to bid, select it, and then
Right, I
start
just-
it?
I just don't want to say we're gonna do a marketing contract for one and just limit it to 1 year when we may need a little bit more than that and then have to.
with the
redo
option to
process again.
You
extend.
can-
So I think that,
You can do options.
right, I think that we need to add in, I mean, maybe we don't want to say 2 more years, but at least 1 more year. So
Yeah.
I just want to make it broad enough that we.
Yes.
That we're not,
I think you just
Yeah,
throw an
fair point.
option to extend to the extent possible.
okay,
Yeah.
that's all. I just didn't want to go, okay, a year, and then we're like, wait a minute, we
Yeah.
have.
Same boat again, yeah.
And as mutually agreed upon.
Yeah,
So,
Right, so I think as long as we have that caveat in there again, that.
Yep.
And with that understanding that we are doing the branding and that we're gonna look at
That's all I go get anyway. But your first contract would be 10 months, correct? Because if you're extending our contract right now into August, then you would go from September 1 to June 30th.
right.
say, I'm sorry, I was
Yeah, we
trying to make a note.
extended them for 2 months.
So then
You're
you,
extending for 2 months.
so you, the new contract for whoever is September 1 to June 30th. So it's
It could
a,
be, I mean, I think that that's a
Option,
conversation to have. Because you could do longer than that. It doesn't matter, but it's subject to funding.
okay.
So
But
that
we-
would be the.
We changed it to bring it
Yeah,
back on the
If
town's
these guys
fiscal
don't
year.
care, they, whatever.
I'm with you.
I mean, is there any benefit to have it not be fiscal year, to have it be like a September, like, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think there is from a
I don't
workload
know.
point of view, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's, you know, it could go both ways. It's maybe even more advantageous not to have another contract that's expiring at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah,
And now we got one, can deal with it in September.
Right, I mean, I'm kind
Whatever.
of thinking, you know, and I defer to Marion, that is it, you know. What is, I guess, what is,
But
for a year-long marketing thing, when's the peak time that starts and,
yeah,
you know, because
That's a good
it's probably not the middle of the summer, like the middle of the summer, you're in it.
Yeah, you're doing most of your
marketing
marketing in the-
before the summer to get the people to come in the summer.
Right now, or in June, we would be already looking at securing our contracts for September 1. So it'll be interesting how it plays out this year.
it looks like, so
Okay, so-
this was the old, you know, Amy, this wasn't your
Yeah,
your
I
work.
know.
Understand, but on this chart, there were, this was like a spending plan. And the pink showed, and this has got spending to date in it, so let's go back 1 year. I don't know if this one has the colors. Yeah, that one doesn't have the colors. So
I think
the
that's-
pink shows when it was planned to occur.
It never worked out.
Yeah, it was always fun to watch.
If you were looking for a contract to go in place for the fall for September 1, we would be talking to like CCB Media in July.
okay.
Those,
So that's why this is going to be very funky.
But is there a peak, is there a best time of the year to start a contract, I guess is where I was going.
Yeah,
One
I
is
think
actually,
it's more confusing if you take the events out, because if you're marketing the events, then you're busiest around.
But so I think there's something kind of confused there, is that
Events versus.
the events, we have given money in this contract for you to put on special events, and then we have our own special event funding. So this, what we're saying is that if we take events out of this contract, any events you all want to do need to be applied through our fund.
Right.
Which is calendar years.
Right, calendar year, yeah, so,
I-
I understand
Were
that.
you talking more about the contract?
Talking
Photo
more
and
about-
Yeah.
video?
Right.
No, well, not, well, yes and no, but if you go up like any of the geo fencing and stuff, like those contracts are typically in place for the fall, like you're already negotiating your contracts in the summer for the fall. Because you want them to go in place September 1.
yeah.
How far ahead do the buys usually happen, Amy? Like,
You don't sign anything.
like 3 months in advance or 6 months in
It
advance, or
just
does it
depends
depend on the
what it
meeting?
is. I mean, sometimes like if there's a special or something, your reps will send you something way ahead of time. And then you
I-
lock in that price.
Mhm.
I have another question.
Yeah.
If in a perfect world, how? So you have, I mean, you have to balance the need that you see to be flexible and buy what you think is most advantageous. But you also have to lock into contracts.
Yep.
So that's a balance for you with a contract and not just a kind of pot of money that,
Mhm.
And I would think,
Do
I
whatever you
would think
want.
that something you need to consider too is design work, because not all marketers are designers. And that takes up a huge amount of time. And my preference would have been to have a little design money in here.
that's a
As
great comment.
as
Yep.
well as,
Feedback.
as well as content, creation, like blogs and stuff, like. I just don't have enough time in the day, but if you hired someone to do some blogs and have that content to put in newsletters or all over the place.
But again, if you don't have events, more time's freed up, so it's.
Right, yeah, I mean,
That's good feedback, though.
it's just a balance.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing to prevent the chamber from putting on events. It would just be funded.
No, we get it.
funded
No, what,
Out of a different.
Yeah. It-
Fuck it, but right, we're getting back to the nitty gritty of this is marketing is what we're trying to.
yeah,
When is this RFP gonna go out?
well, that's what we need to decide.
We need to decide on that.
So,
We haven't, I mean, we don't have the scope of the, once we get the scope,
Mhm.
an RFP can get put out pretty quickly.
Hmm.
But I think that before you issue the RFP, you do want to go and meet with the board. And before you go down that road, saying, you want to make sure you're on the same
are you talking
page.
about marketing or branding?
Marketing?
I'm not
It's
talking-
all about marketing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think you could fold that, you could aim to have it done in June, or you can send them a note saying this is what we're planning, if you want to have a come in to discuss.
Yeah.
You could do
So-
that.
Here's, in terms of this whole like gap of timing and contracts for what needs to be set,
Mhm.
with the extension we just voted on through end of August. Is all, like, will marketing through the winter be covered? So then that's why we need the
we
proposal for
we
what.
can't secure anything because
You know, that's a
our
good-
contract only goes to the end of August.
that's a good point.
All right, then
So you gotta get it out.
okay, I'm just, I don't think it makes sense, but yeah.
Or
No, I was asking the
You
same
can't
thing. I
extend
was
the
trying
contract.
to wrap my
You
head around
cannot
it too.
extend the
No,
current one
we just
beyond,
extended it. for 2
beyond
months.
August.
So that's why it would be helpful to have the proposal, because I'm trying to figure out what that $20,000 for marketing will be used for in July and August. If we're not really marketing in July and August, that's when you would typically be securing your contracts for the next year.
But you're still marketing because what you're doing is you're targeting the people that are here. As soon as they're coming across. the
Okay,
bridge,
so that's what I
we're feeding
needed
them
about
ads.
understanding of it.
You know, so in July and August, believe me, you're targeting people that are coming across that bridge to come to Yarmouth. Right? So there's ways that we do that through the geo fencing and,
Yeah, I think that
gotta get
a
the
lot
RFP.
of it,
and we'll
In my
write
mind,
that
would be like-
proposal.
putting the video into use, if I get it made soon, like getting it out to the masses in the following months, and then I would give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to retract the
So-
2 months, then
No, I don't. I'm just trying, I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure it out. Like, if we're paying you for $20,000 for July and August, and you're telling us that's the time that you're usually getting your contract set for, I'm just trying to figure out like
hey, I know there's,
what that's doing.
there's still work being done.
Yeah,
believe
no, I understand that. I'm just, it would have been nice to have known this meeting, what that proposal would have been. But so in terms of this, do you think it's beneficial to set a second meeting this month? We're gonna try, I know it's not ideal, but like, May, we have we have, end of the month, the end of the month's just not, it's have to be like,
What would the second meeting be?
to nail this contract down and get the RFP out.
You gotta get the RFP done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the only other thing that I propose is that I go home tonight and I work on the thing that we have based on all this feedback, draft it and bring it to the May meeting, and that's when we work it out. And then we have to work, who do I work, we have to work to get it issued for what, June 1?
Madam Chair,
Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. is the
why don't
timeline.
we suggestion, why don't we get a couple of people together? I'll
We
volunteer.
it's already discussed this, that if you have more than 3 people, you need to have a public meeting.
So
So that's why we've been trying to do this.
this was,
This was the way we're trying to do it, because if you have 3 people as a working group, it needs to be posted as a public meeting. So trying to work efficiently with everybody's collective feedback.
I think that, can I make a suggestion? I think that if Courtney works on this and you reach out as needed, and I'll help you to the extent possible, then you come back in May. Maybe you bump your meeting to May 6th or something, if you really want. I'll get the room for you. And discuss your scope there. And
Okay,
we'll get it out. We have assistance with procurement.
Yep.
Svetlana will be of good assistance,
okay.
and we'll help you through that. Don't worry.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make sure to.
You can task.
I was gonna say,
task us.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can,
I'll task people.
Yeah.
I just, in sake of efficiencies, I'll take what we talked about tonight with these
Yeah.
very good comments from Mary and Amy and do a rough draft. So that way, when we
Yeah.
come in May,
Yes.
we're ready to
Okay.
that's the
get
only
this
way
thing
to
out the
work, yeah.
door. Okay,
Thanks.
okay, so that's,
All right, so
Homework for
let me, I'm gonna throw out another bomb for conversation.
Task.
Just,
Are you including? Oh, we have the extension, the RFP. Are you going to include a signature marketing item? Like the sand sculptures in it?
I will leave that up for discussion here.
can we do that on the special events?
So the recent conversation here has been that the sculptures are really a marketing tool. And that the appropriate source of funding is out of that marketing bucket. That's, I think, the last couple
Mhm.
meetings.
So, yes, but we can't specifically say a sand sculpture trail,
No,
right?
You can't, no, I mean, you could
Just
say a
signature.
signature event,
Signature.
or do you
Signature.
wanna do
Yeah.
it separate?
Okay.
I'm throwing it out there because
Yeah.
you guys, it's a hard conversation, but we used to have.
Even.
Do it as like an add-on, like, so you can do it as an add-on option. So we do the marketing contract and then have an add-on option of that.
Does that,
A promotion.
I don't know, why it's not a public improvement.
Or
You
promotion.
could call it
Different event.
a signature
or something
promotion?
like that.
They'll do a different event if they don't know it.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be sand sculpture. could be
no, it could
something
be,
else.
it could be,
Right.
yeah.
Right, that,
Whatever.
yeah, some sort of signature event.
Some
that's
vendor
unique, you know,
promotion.
I would say add unique,
Promotion.
original promotion, all
So,
right?
but are you saying fold it into the marketing RFP for kind of direction for Courtney, or do you want to have that be a standalone RFP? You can come back to it.
I'll
You
throw
want
it in
to
there just for
Fold
discussion's
it,
sake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it folded in somehow, even if it's like an add-on option or enhancement to the to that, but
Yeah.
I think it's been all over the place and it needs to,
You can throw in
I think-
cooperative
Cooperative,
into
yeah.
that line, because it's a cooperative thing with the business community.
Mhm. Okay,
How would you,
I mean,
Sorry?
somebody may come back and say it's not sand sculptures, it's something else, I don't know,
Right,
but, yeah.
so then the sand sculpture trail would become an application for the special events?
If
no,
that's,
it would be part of the marketing contract.
No, but the way you're describing it. and-
if, so
Are you saying the
if,
same thing?
if we issue this marketing contract for a year and you all either don't bid or don't apply, then the sand sculpture needs to be figured out another way. We're not gonna tell this in this
I'm
RFP.
asking.
Yeah,
It
so
won't Go under this, it won't go under the special event.
Because it's economic development.
I think we'd have to have that discussion.
Yeah.
I think we have
I-
The
felt
promotion.
on both
think-
sides of it in the last few years. I think we've more formally, more recently felt it's more marketing than events. But that's something that would have to be discussed.
Yeah.
Or it's been all over the place.
I think that
Yeah.
what would be really helpful going forward for the committee with these buckets that exist is to just have like a conversation someday saying, what is what? And if
Yeah.
you want to provide some definitions on things, it might help avoid some of the ambiguity of
Yeah.
awards.
Okay,
Can I ask?
yeah.
In the marketing contract, why can't you list to do the sand sculpture trail? That whoever applies,
I mean, I think that
so that way you don't lose that initiative. That is like the biggest marketing initiative you have. I'm just asking, you couldn't be specific about that?
I mean, procurement wise, can we say you
You-
have to take this on? That this is what we want? I mean, I guess we could, right? But
I mean, you'd have to specify exactly what it is,
yeah,
I think. I
yeah,
mean, I think that the way it is, honestly, is, you know, I would do it flexible. You know, signature promotion,
Yeah.
and, you know, some promotion and.
I think it does too, because.
People could look back and see what we have been doing and they could say, yeah, geez, that really works great.
Right, you don't have to
We're gonna
reinvent
keep
the
doing
wheel.
it,
mhm,
right?
But I think too, that, the sand sculpture trail has the relationships and contracts and stuff, so if there was somebody else, they may not have those relationships to even pull that off, per se. So I think it needs to be broad, keep it in there so it can go that way, but broad.
yeah,
I mean, I think that's a question for you guys to
yeah, we'll have to work it
decide
out.
if you want it to
I
be
think,
the sand sculpture, or if you want it to
Right.
be something broader, more general, or if you wanna procure a sand sculpture trail separately, or if you want to procure a signature promotion thing. separate. There's basically 4 reasons.
yeah, so I'll come up with the language for each of those options and we'll just have to we'll have to discuss it comprehensively. I know Danielle has feelings on it and she wants it to be decided on what we do. And I think the sand sculpture thing in particular is a sticking point that I would prefer a lot more input and conversation on.
I will say that it's very unique and I can tell from the Facebook page that people really do enjoy it and come to the town for it. And out of everything that we do, I do think it's the most valuable. And I will say that selling the sand sculptures is easy because everyone wants to be involved. But easy because they're chamber members, so I don't know.
No,
what-
they're not.
Well, some of them are,
Yeah.
but
I can tell you if Yarmouth doesn't do
We
it,
should make-
the next town over will take it on and you'll lose it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's your biggest marketing initiative you have. I know, I'm just saying.
I know, the numbers have been a little iffy for me, and so I think we just wanna, some things don't always last forever, and sometimes they're done better, and maybe this next person will say yes, but we have a better idea for it, or we have somebody who's a creative designer who will work to make it so it's not logos of all the businesses and make it, so I don't know, I'm not promising the sand sculpture will stay, I'm not promising it's gonna go away, but like, we will decide how we want a signature promotional thing to look in this next contract when we have the discussion in May, so,
Okay.
other marketing contract stuff to send me home with to work on for the next few weeks. Okay, thank you both so much for being here. We really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Next.
Next is the muck update. So we had our meeting, last week? Oh, was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
No, it was last
Just
week.
Last week. yeah.
Was it just last week?
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was the
31st.
31st.
Yeah.
Downstairs and.
My mother.
I think it went well. I think the webpage has been updated recently with other meetings. I don't know for sure. Is there any updates on that you had, Karen?
On which?
Matikes?
Matikes? No, I know that, Bill is working to continue updating things. We've got, BSC has been hired. BSC is also doing the local comprehensive plan, so it's a really nice dovetail.
Good group.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're doing a good job and they, are coming on board soon and we're winding down. The housing committee's had its 3rd meeting. You guys had a great meeting, last week. And, so we're working on getting kind of the reconciliation ideas. So we had the brainstorm meeting. Barrett Consulting had kind of distilled it down to a fewer ideas for us, and the housing group had the same structure. And so they need to boil it down to kind of the 3 ideas that we arrived at. I did share, Courtney and Peter, your nice email with Alexis, so
Yeah.
I'm sure she can
Yeah,
incorporate that to the extent possible.
I realized that they actually were using the best practice of, in organizational dynamics for that kind of
Okay.
event. We could, we could, Portland, Oregon. I'm sorry, Portland.
Oregon,
Yeah,
Oregon.
it's Oregon.
I say Oregon.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking, there was a town in Washington State that had done this 30 years ago that looks just like Yarmouth in a lot of ways, except on Puget Sound. And I was looking at their website and stuff, and I think there might be a bunch of stuff. What I would take as my personal thing would be, I'll take a look at all the things that they're doing and saying there. And let's take a look, because they had that really fascinating visioning. And it changed the whole structure of what they were going for. They decided they didn't want to do tourism only either. And so they went off in a
That'd be
different
interesting for you
direction.
to share
So
with the
I'll
group.
go and tell you what happened with that.
But so your next muck meeting is
The 28th.
April 28th,
And then it's.
day
town
before
meeting.
town meeting. But anyways, Bill is working to kind of distill all that information. I, encourage you to keep looking at the website. If he sends something out, I'll absolutely forward it.
Bunch of stuff.
Sorry?
Yeah, he added a bunch of stuff on.
Yeah, he did add a
Conference
bunch of stuff.
Conference and sports facility reports,
There's
yeah.
tons of stuff. So it's moving along, and the muck committee itself will really be starting to dig in.
Okay,
Okay?
yes, Joe.
What's the goal of our next meeting?
It's to come up with the one idea to bring to the muck. To filter the 3
Mhm.
ideas we had into one idea to bring to the muck, which if I had to
She's
get my
got it.
crystal ball out, it'd probably be some sort of mixed use or not just a standalone sports place.
I thought our three choices were sort of variations on the same theme.
I agree.
They are.
I agree with
They
you.
are.
They kind of-
And there's your
But I
one.
mean, the only difference is that like, it's either gonna be a standalone sports complex only, or it's gonna be something that is more than that. And so that's kind of the variation. I'm hoping that we lean towards something that's not just sports.
And remember, we said at that meeting, kind of the committees, this committee and the chamber folks that were there, I think you really were all on one page, and we
Yeah.
were thinking about moving the meeting.
Yeah,
I think you guys are
Danielle
gonna,
got
I
us-
think it's gonna be easy.
Danielle got us to move along real quick at the end there.
I think it's gonna be easy. Or you, unless you're gonna have something in store.
No, not at all.
I will say that, like,
I honestly think
the-
that,
No, go ahead.
I honestly.
I honestly think that, it confuses me because I don't think that the town is gonna be the developer of this idea,
No,
Mm-mm.
right? So if we're gonna spend that next meeting deciding what elements that we want inside of the 4 walls, that's sort of presumptuous because
this whole thing is presumptuous.
Your
This entire process is presumptuous.
But you're supposed to be presumptive, because all of it's gonna feed the muck committee, and the muck committee will end up issuing RFPs or whatever, to say
Yeah.
what they want, and you're informing the process.
because it's gonna be, okay,
Yeah,
I got nothing else.
it's kind of like
Done deal.
2 sides of the same coin. It's the same, yes, it's all presumptuous. It's all without significant public feedback. It's all just people in a room talking about ideas that all sort of circle around the same thing that I think out there in the big world has already been kind of decided on, that Yarmouth is getting some sort of sports complex.
There you go.
And so what does that look like? Ultimately, though, it's all gonna have to go to town meeting, and it's up to the voters.
Mhm.
And if you've been watching the C-Camps process in Brewster, I'm not confident in this process in Yarmouth, and I will say that out loud on camera right now, that the C-Camps has done years of public engagement and public process and input. They have had several committees and meetings, and they brought it to town meeting last year, and it failed. And so this is part of the lovely world of local open town meeting government in Massachusetts, is that ultimately town meeting voters get to decide what happens after we've put our feedback in. So I'm interested to see what happens after the muck does it and where they take all of our info and how they move it forward.
Mhm.
And what we look at for a future town meeting article of some sort that would be issuing an RFP regarding developing whatever goes inside those four walls and those 70 acres.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're making my point, like,
Yeah.
they didn't do all the stuff beforehand to give us any direction on this, so.
No,
it's
and I
all gonna
will
have to be
say,
done in
Right.
backwards,
Behind
in reverse.
I will say that if you go onto the town of Dennis, who has the same situation in the Wixon School, they have been approached by the YMCA. So comments about the YMCA not wanting to come to the Mid-Cape are a little confusing to me, because there's a whole PowerPoint in their most recent select board packet about the Wixon School and the YMCA approaching the town and working with the town. So there's a lot of confusion out there as to what this area of the Cape wants and needs. I do wish that we were sort of talking to our counterparts in Dennis a little bit more, because if they're gonna plan the same sort of thing, then what's the point of us doing it?
Yeah.
We just don't know.
That's
So
the point.
keeps me up at night. Minutes, 4/9, 11/13, and 1.
The motion to accept the 4/19/24, 11/13/24, and 1/14/25 minutes as presented in the
Second.
packet.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
having not been at any of them.
That's-
Right, you're just approving.
That's, he wasn't there either, so.
That's
That's
okay.
fine. Committee member updates. We submitted our annual report. For the
Yes.
Yes, thank you to Danielle for finalizing that was away. And then okay, so Karen had mentioned we have an interim sort of partial part-time employee to fill the economic
Yeah.
development role. I did meet with him very briefly earlier this week. His name is Jay Grandi. He is the former town administrator in Tisbury. And so he is here part-time, sort of helping with economic stuff and seeing where we want to go. He asked me what we were hoping to do in the next sort of year. And I said, we're trying to focus more on economic development. He was interested in the branding. He was very interested in the branding and has some experience with that in other communities he's been in. So that was interesting. Hopefully he'll come to a meeting of ours in the future. And the other thing.
That was the result of, this person's hiring was a result of the RFP that went off to fill Kyle's spot. Yes.
So we have not been able to fill Kyle's vacant position full-time. So they've brought in Jay as a part-time person to
Gotcha.
help supplement that.
Just helping out with like the grant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
And then
Forget about, say that, to add on to that, they're not even advertising the job. We had a conversation about it, it's hard to.
It's on the website.
it's on the website, but it's not one of those ones that's
Not on
keep
LinkedIn.
updated regularly.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I don't think I had any other updates at this time. Oh, okay, here's my update. May 6th is the Tourism Destination Marketing District hearing of the Select Board. I'll be going to that and asking some questions and hearing what all the input is. As far as I can tell, the only towns to have certified this petition are Barnstable and Yarmouth. So I'm hoping to get some more clarification on, well, there's money supposed to be coming from this to the chambers. What will that be? How much? If it's just the two of us, I'm interested to see what will be talked about at that hearing. So May 6th at the select board meeting is going to be that TDMD hearing. But that's my updates. Are there other committee updates?
I don't have.
No?
None for me.
Staff updates?
So my big
And the
update,
news is,
sorry,
the news is,
the good news is I'm leaving town.
oh, that's not good news.
It's not good news.
Sorry. Yep, April 30th will be my last day. But, I've offered to help
Yes.
as needed, and, I think I'll be helping out some. I'm not sure I'll be coming to CEDC meetings.
That's okay.
But,
I can run a Zoom.
I think we're leaving you in good hands.
Where are you going,
So-
so we know where to find you?
I am gonna go, to work at the Barnstable Land Trust.
Fantastic.
Land,
I'm excited.
land
Thank
acquisition
you.
for,
Sorry?
land acquisition for,
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Conservation
the, I
purposes.
think the title is Director of Operations.
good, congratulations.
Yeah, thank
Good.
you. Yeah, I'm real excited.
I have some other questions, and if you're leaving, the amount of work that's before us shouldn't all fall on the chairman, the
I
chairwoman.
agree.
So, on April 30th, the day after that, who's gonna pick up help in the town?
Stay
Cause you're gonna
tuned.
be doing your new job.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing my new job. I have offered to be here some, because my new job is part-time. And so we're in process of figuring out all the work, so developing more of a transition plan.
Yeah.
Stay
I-
tuned, because I'm hopeful
will.
Jay can do some, and,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think-
it certainly
think that's
shouldn't all
important.
fall on Courtney.
No, because there's
No,
an awful
but-
lot of work, I mean, between.
She has a day job too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's what I'm.
I don't.
You don't. But maybe we could.
Yes.
Yeah. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it is what, 7:00.
Yeah, that's the longest one. I've had.
7:00. Thank you.
Oh, and do come to the, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Stop that.
That's a pause.
So on the 28th, we have a routine meeting with